Good morning. Today's video is for the currency exchange unit conversion problems. And you're going to see a table that looks like this one in your work today, where it lists the currency exchange. So, for example, you go to another country and they don't use American dollars there, and you change your money in for their money, you don't get the exact same amount. $100 in U.S. money doesn't equal 100 pesos or 100 pounds or 100 yen. It's not exactly the same. So we got to use these conversion tables to figure it out. So there's two different numbers. The first group right here says use $1 US in foreign currency. So when you're making your conversion rates for that one, you'll be using $1 US. For example, that top one, the British pounds, you would use $1, and then the other side of the fraction would be 0.49 pounds. That's how you'd set up that conversion factor. Whereas the second column, it's using the foreign currency as the item of one. So for example, the same exact row, that same exact pound, if I used 1 pound, then I would use $2.04. So again, each column can be used. It doesn't matter which column you use. You just have to be careful as to which country gets the one. If it's, again, this first column, then the U.S. money, the dollar, gets the one. If it's the second column, it's the foreign currency that gets the one. It doesn't matter. You can use both, and I'll show you in a couple of examples. All right, so first example. We have 20 U.S. dollars. We want to go to Europe, convert it into euros. So we always start with what we know. We got the $20. I'll use just letter D for dollars over 1. And when I times it, the only thing that matters is the location of things. The dollars needs to be in bottom, the E for euros needs to be in top so that these dollars can cancel out. So I go back up and I have two options to use. Oops, wrong one. That's the pound. I have two options to use. Come on, little buddy. There you go. Those are my two choices. Now, this first column is where I use 1 with US dollars, and I'll do that. That means I put the 1 down where the dollars are, and I put the 0.73 up where the euros are. Now again, I could have done this a completely different way. I could have started with the 20 over 1, known I had to put dollars on bottom, euros on top, so the dollars cancel, and then use the other number. But the other number is when you use a 1 with the foreign currency, and that number with the dollars. So again, two separate ways to do the problem. But both get you the same answer. If I'm doing the red one over here, I'm going to end up just multiplying 20 times 0.73, and I'm going to get 14.6. If I'm doing the green one, what's going to end up is that these ones here cancel, and I'm really going to end up doing 20 divided by 1.38, which gets me 14.5. So essentially the same answer. Again, the decimals are rounded pretty low for us to use. They're not exact, but they would be exact. So the answer would be 14.5 or 14.6, depending on which method you used. So again, there's going to be some slight variation in answer just depending on, or just based on the way that the decimals have been rounded. All right, so let's try one the other direction. So you're coming back. You went to Mexico, you had to change your money into pesos, and now you want to come back, and you don't want those pesos anymore. You want those changed back into U.S. dollars. So again, start with what you know. We know we have 100 pesos over 1 as a fraction. Now I'm going to times it, and the pesos has to go in bottom, dollars goes in top again so that the pesos cancel. All right? Now again, depending on how I set this up, let's say I use this first column here. That would be where I would use 1 for the U.S. dollar number and then 10.78 for the pesos number. But again, I could have done that differently. I could have done it the opposite direction. Still had pesos on bottom, still had dollars on top. That's got to happen. That's the way you set it up. You go by the letters of the units, not by the numbers. Now I'll know numbers to use. And again, for this one, the 1 goes in the bottom, because that's the one that goes with the foreign currency. And then up top, I'm going to be using the 0.09. All right, so if I'm doing the red one, it's going to be 1,000 divided by 10.78, and I would get 92.76. If I had to set up the green way here, that's going to be me doing 1,000 times 0.09, which ends up being 90. Like I said, there is a slight variation depending on where you go. Sometimes you get ripped off a little bit, sometimes you don't, sometimes you make a little bit of money, but again, they're pretty close. So the answers will be slightly various. Again, depends on which one you did. You could either get 92.76 or 90. Again, it's slight variations, and it's expected. So this is what you're doing today. You only got a handful, so give it a shot.